like to welcome each and every one of you here to the worship service of the Boston Church of Christ. If you're a visitor here, we'd like for you to fill out a visitor's card. And if we have some young men that come up here in a minute, we'd like to get ready to your visit so we can contact you. It's always good if you'll hang around a little bit, we'll try to get to know you. First of all, on our announcements this morning, we have the birth announcement. George Wendell Robinson was born May 10th, 70 pounds, 14 ounces, 21 inches long. Parents are Austin and Ashley Robinson. Grandparents Jim and Kathy Robinson. Great-grandparents Marie Robinson and the late Wendell Robinson. So that's on our announcements. First of all, other announcements we have. They've already been on the overhead this morning. Tommy McGee had back surgery Tuesday. He is recovering. I've had several inquiries about that. Does anybody know his status? He had surgery, I presume, in Arlington. So we need to try to find that out. Dwayne Hart is back with us after his brief illness. So let's all shake his hand and welcome him back. Kevin Cawley's fighting back pain, and we'll see doctors to try to get this some kind of resolution to it. So let's remember him in our prayers. And also, we've been talking about letting the office know if you have any graduates this year. That's coming fast and functional. Ladies' night out will be this Tuesday night. They're going to the Junction. That's May 14th in DeKalb. Teachers and Learning to Serve volunteers will be honored with a banquet on May 25th at 5:30 p.m. Please sign up on the list in the foyer. Mother's Day is today. We'd like to wish all a happy Mother's Day. We couldn't make it without our mother. Learning to Serve is on the 19th, next Sunday. Graduates that we have about have been notified as Cameron Perry, granddaughter of Virginia Paris. James and Sylvia Williams, grandson. They have two. Cal Shelton Ellison, graduated from the University of Texas at Arlington with a BA degree in Business Marketing, May 11th. Cooper Thomas Williams will graduate from Timberview High School in Keller, Texas, May 25th. He plans to study music at North Texas University in Denton, Texas. Kimberly Ledbetter graduates this year from Redwater High School as a niece of Daryl and Donna Patterson. Let's see if I can. Marcaria Patterson, is that right? Makata. Okay. Patterson graduated Tuesday from Washington Academy in Texarkana, Arkansas. She's a granddaughter of Daryl and Donna. Okay, now I think I've covered everything. Is there anything? I know we always mention the shut-ins. Let's not forget them. Let's mention the bereaved, the ones that have losses. We still have those. The ones that we are that have illness, had recent surgery. We know who they are. They're in the book. We need to give them a call. We think about it. See how they're doing. Is there anything else? Sorry, go ahead and pick up the calls. We'll continue our worship services.
Before our opening prayer, we'll sing Psalm 429. Sing all the verses of this Psalm 429. Oh, to be like thee, blessed Redeemer, this is my constant longing and prayer. Let thee forfeit all earth's treasures, Jesus, thy perfect likeness to wear. Oh, to be like thee, oh, to be like thee, blessed Redeemer.
Holy name, thank thee, Heavenly Father, for the gift of my son. Thank you for the forgiveness of sins that we have as a forgive of the shedding of his blood him upon the cross. We ask that you would help us to remember his great love for us and all that he went through. We ask these things in his name.
Our next song will be in your books number 4, To God Be the Glory. To God be the glory, great things he hath done. So loved he the world that he gave us his Son, who yielded his life and atonement for sin, and don't run the life gift that all may go in. Praise the Lord, let the earth hear his voice. Praise the Lord.
have this opportunity to return back to you a portion of which you have blessed us with. We pray, Father, that we would give with willing and cheerful hearts. In Christ's name we pray.
He took my burdens all away. I'm so brighter, and he gave me a song, a wonderful song, a wonderful song I now can sing. In my heart joy bells ring. He gave me a song, a wonderful song. He gave me a song to sing about. He lifted me from sin and doubt. Oh, praise His name. He is my King. A wonderful song He is to me. Brighter the way grows every day, walking the heavenly way. He gave me a song, a wonderful song, a wonderful song I now can sing. Praise to Him, my King. He gave me a song, a wonderful song. He gave me a song to sing about. He lifted me from sin and doubt. Oh, praise His name. He is my King. A wonderful song He is to me. I am free, no more to die, never to say goodbye. He gave me a song, a wonderful song. And some of these days in that fair land, sing the chorus friend. He gave me a song, a wonderful song. He gave me a song to sing about. He lifted me from sin and doubt. Oh, praise His name. He is my King. A wonderful song He is to me. Be seated, please. Well, as was mentioned earlier today, it is Mother's Day, and we're happy to have all of our mothers with us this morning. I bid you a happy Mother's Day along with everyone else, and so we're glad to have you this morning. And I thought this morning, as we were already focusing on Mother's Day, that we think a little bit about our mothers and what our mothers might give us as motherly advice this morning.
And so our lesson this morning is entitled, A Mother's Advice. When we think about mothers, they're often instructing their children, giving them some good information, helping them to learn and to grow. And even as we grow older, it's the case that we often hark back to the good advice that our mothers gave us in one area of life or another. And so this morning I thought I would focus upon three things that are some motherly advice that each one of us can take, especially those among us who are younger, and then could apply to our lives. Let's start off with Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1, which says, Remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come and the years draw near, when you say, I have no pleasure in them. You know, it's good to remember God, especially in our youth, because that is the time when we need to have that solid, firm foundation for the days to come. It sets the tone for our whole life, so to speak. Psalm 71 and verse 17 says, O God, thou hast taught me from my youth, and hitherto have I declared thy wondrous works. There are some things that we need to know from our youth that our mothers encourage, and many different kinds of advice that mothers give to youth as they're growing up. While that advice is good for youth, it's also good for those of us who are older as well to be reminded of those great truths that our mothers taught us. So let's think about some mother's advice this morning. And the first motherly advice to the young is this: learn to be principled. Learn to be principled. What does that mean, to be principled? Well, it means not to be influenced to do wrong things based upon emotions, for one. But it also means thinking about doing what is right for the mere fact of doing what is right. Maybe you heard your mother say, do this. Why, Mom? Because it's the right thing to do. And we're supposed to do what is right. So how do we do that? First of all, we don't want to be influenced by our emotions in the wrong direction. When we think about making decisions in our life, a lot of times we've heard the advice, don't make any decisions while you're emotional. And that's good motherly advice, because a lot of times what we can do is we can get all wrapped up in our emotions and let our emotions make a big decision for us, and then later on we'll realize that, that wasn't the best thing for me to do at the time. So there's some good motherly advice. In our society today, a lot of times the philosophy is, if it feels good, do it. And our mothers often will remind us that the feel-good advice isn't necessarily good advice either. That sometimes you should do things that don't feel good, like taking out the trash, for example, or maybe cleaning the bathrooms. Those kinds of things don't make us feel very good, but they're certainly good things that are right to do that our mothers help us to learn to do. Now, of course, society will hark upon all of these things that it wants you to do so that it can profit off of your sin, such as drinking and smoking and doing drugs and lying and cheating and stealing and other horrible things. But our mothers will remind us that those things are wrong and that we should not participate in them. Moses lived a very exemplary life. He lived a principled life. And it says in Hebrews 11 in verses 24 through 26, and I don't know why the little word add is on the end of it. I'm not sure what happened, but that's not supposed to be there. But notice Moses' principled life. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. The esteeming their approach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. Moses had a mother. The mother that he had protected him when Pharaoh's order was to destroy all of the young children. She protected him, and then she ended up being his nurse as he grew up. No doubt teaching him good things that led Moses then to lead this principled life and not to live for the pleasures of sin for a season. What does it mean to be principled? Not to be influenced to do the wrong thing based upon emotions. But it also means not to be influenced to do the wrong thing because of the influence of our friends. Now we all need and we all want friends in our life. But sometimes friends can influence us in the wrong way. Sometimes they can influence us for good, and sometimes they can influence us for evil. And mothers oftentimes will be the ones to tell us, now if your friends were to go jump off of a cliff, would you do that? You may have heard that once or twice as you were growing up. And friends aren't necessarily the ones to follow in all situations. And so it's important that we have good friends and that they have a good influence on our life. Remember 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil companionships corrupt good morals. And our mother will remind us that we need to have good friends. Learning to be principled also means not being influenced to do the wrong thing because of one's environment. A lot of times our environment will sort of funnel us in one particular direction or another. And there are all kinds of troubles in the world that we will have to face that hopefully our mothers will prepare us for. There might be some pain and suffering and difficulties of one kind or another. And these things can either lead us in a way that will take us away from God and Christ, or we can use those things to help bolster our faith and grow closer to God and Christ. And our mothers, if they're good, godly mothers, are going to help us in the right direction here. And they will encourage us not to give in time of difficulty and temptation and problems, but rather to be patient, to have endurance, to be long-suffering, and that those things will see us through these difficult times. No doubt our mothers experienced some of those times themselves, and they understood what it meant to go through those things and end up on the other side with a greater faith than they had to begin with. So mothers can help us in that regard as well. James says in James chapter 5, verses 10 through 11, take, brethren, for an example of suffering and of patience, the prophets who spake in the name of the Lord. Behold, we call them blessed that endure. You have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, how the Lord is full of pity and merciful. If we will endure and listen to our mother's good advice to be principled, then we can learn to endure the difficult times. But then secondly, as we think about a mother's good advice this morning, we want to listen to our mothers and even to our grandmothers, as the case might be. Why is that? Why should we listen? Because, first of all, your mother knows where you have been. In fact, she has lived many more years than you have, and have experienced life in many ways that perhaps you have not experienced it. Oh yes, it's thrilling to be young and to want to take in all the sights and sounds of the world and all the different experiences, and go places and do things, and really enjoy life. And your mother understands that. She was young once as well, and she knows how you think regarding these things. She understands what your desires really are. And believe it or not, she's even gone through some of the things that you think are a secret that she doesn't know about, but she probably really already knows about those things and knows exactly what you're thinking and why you're doing what you're doing. And so there's really no reason to keep secrets from mom in that regard. And so when we think about the advice that mothers give, we want to listen to that advice. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord. Colossians 3 and verse 20. So your mother knows where you've been, but your mother also knows the consequences of poor choices. And it's not easy to know what the consequences of any of our choices will be before we've made that choice. And that's one reason why God gives us mothers, is to help us to sort of understand some of those things. Because guess what? Your mother has probably made some poor choices in life. I don't know of anyone who goes through life who doesn't sometimes make some poor choices. We all do. And so your mother is going to know, or she's going to have a sense of what a good choice is and what a bad choice is. And so you really want to listen to her in that regard. It puts her in a position to know because of the experience that she has. And so when we think about listening to our mothers and our grandmothers as well, we do that because she knows the consequences of poor choices. Proverbs 3 and verses 1 through 4 says this, My son, forget not my law, but let thy heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. And your mother is going to know exactly how to have that good, long life and have peace and let mercy and truth be with you and all of those things if you will listen to her advice. And then as we think about listening to our mothers, we want to remember that she has wisdom that comes from experience and observation. And grandmothers have such wisdom as well. But why is that? Because of the length of life that they have lived and the kind of experiences that they have had. Mothers and grandmothers can often tell us, what will happen in people's lives because they have learned to observe people and they have learned to see patterns of behavior in other people's lives. And they know how other people think and can react in certain situations. Think about Proverbs 6 and verses 20 through 23. My son, keep thy father's commandments and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thy heart and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. And so as we think about mothers on Mother's Day, some motherly advice is always good is listen to your mother, because she knows how things go and how things are. But then finally, I want to end on a good positive note here. As I think about motherly advice this morning, as we think about what a good godly mother will give, she will tell you that regardless of all of the difficulties and troubles, regardless of the hard decisions that you may need to make, regardless of what may come along, to treasure every moment. And that is some very good thinking and very good advice. You see, your mother knows that you can't go back, that life always goes forward, and that there's no redos. There are so many memorable firsts that you will have in your life, where you will cross over some threshold that you will never go back and cross over again. Maybe it's getting your first job, or getting married, or having children, or any of other life's wonderful events that take place, there's always a first. And all of the moments of life are to be treasured and enjoyed. Yes, there are friends and acquaintances that will come and go in life, and some will move on, and brothers and sisters will grow up and leave. Some we may have a long relationship with, and some we may not. The fact of the matter is that we don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. So we need to treasure today. James 4 verse 14 says, whereas you know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. And so you can't go back. And so therefore, don't wish your life away. Here is some very good advice. Don't wish your life away. Maybe you're young. Maybe you think, I wish that this would happen, or I wish that that would happen. And I remember saying, when it gets toward the end of school year, like it is right now, a lot of kids are saying, how many more weeks is it? 2 weeks. A lot of kids are saying, I wish it was 2 weeks away right now, so school will be over with. Don't wish your life away. Enjoy the moments in school that you have. Enjoy the time that you have upon the earth. Relish every moment, because you will never get it back. Those moments are precious. And there is something to be said about enjoying them and treasuring them. Remember the words of the Apostle Paul in Philippians 4 verse 11, where he said, I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therein to be content. That's a hard lesson sometimes to learn. But if we can be content with all of the moments of our life and treasure them, then we will have learned something from our others and from God as well. In Matthew 6 and verse 34, Jesus says this, don't be anxious for tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So just worry about today, and don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, or in 2 weeks, or in 3 months, or in whatever period of time you want to put in there. Don't wish your life away, but rather make the most of your opportunities. And opportunities, as the old saying goes, only not once. Well, maybe that's the case. Maybe we may get more than one opportunity. Who knows? But the truth is that we need to take advantage of the opportunities that we have. And we especially need to take advantage of the opportunity to do what is right and what is good. In Galatians chapter 6 and verse 10, we read, as we therefore have opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Turning down a good opportunity may result in some regret, and maybe there will be some, but you will never regret doing what is right and what is good. And so let's take advantage of all the opportunities that we need, or that we may have. Motherly advice today upon Mother's Day. I'm glad everybody is here this morning to enjoy the day. And as we think about a mother's advice, let's remember those 3 things that we discussed. Number 1, let's learn what it means to be principled. Our mothers operate upon principles, and she certainly wants us to operate upon principles within our life as well. Number 2, let's listen to the good advice that our mothers and our grandmothers have given us over the years, and let's follow that advice. And then, number 3, let's treasure every moment that we have, understanding that our mothers know that a good life is to be enjoyed. Well, earlier we spoke about opportunity. And God has given us certainly another day and another opportunity in this life right now to do what is right in relationship to Him. And maybe this morning You're thinking, you know, I haven't always listened to my mother and the good advice she gave me. And maybe you're thinking, and also, I haven't always listened to God and the truth that He has given me. And this morning I need to make some changes in my life. Well, if that's your situation, if that's your case, then this morning you have an opportunity to do something about that. Jesus once told the parable of the great feast in Luke chapter 14 and verse 16. And He talked about how many were invited, but they didn't come because they made excuses one way or another not to take advantage of the rich opportunities that were before them. Well, God offers you this yet another opportunity to dedicate your life to Him, to make any changes that you need to make this morning to live for Him. If there's someone here this morning that would like to ask for prayers of the church in that regard, we certainly would pray with you at this time. Or maybe you need to become a child of God. Maybe your mother was a godly mother, and she always encouraged you to be a Christian person, but you never made that choice to become a Christian. And this morning you want to do that through hearing the Word of God and repenting of your sins. After having believed that Word, confessing Jesus as the Christ, and being baptized for the remission of sins, this morning you can become a child of God and live for Him. And I know that your mother would be proud of that decision if you need to make it today. And so whatever your need may be this morning, why don't you come now and make that need known if you have a need while we stand and while we sing.
There's a stranger at the door. Let him in. He has been there of before. Let him in. Let him in where he is gone. Let him in the Holy One, Jesus Christ the Father's Son. Let him in. Open now to him your heart. Let him in. If you wait, he will depart. Let him in. Let him in. He is your friend. Your soul will surely defend. He will keep you to the end. Let him in. Now admit the heavenly guest. Let him in. He will make for you a feast. Let him in. He will speak your sins for him. And when earth lies all around, he will take you home to heaven. Let him in.
We'll sing the first verse of I'll Fly Away and play the closing prayer. Your books is Psalm number 850.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for this
this Lord's Day that you provided for us. We thank you for the opportunity to come and to listen to your word and to gain strength for the week that we have before us. We thank you for all the blessings of life, and we ask that you look after those that are on the bed of affliction, that you heal them and turn them to their much wanted health. We especially want to remember the mothers this day for all the gifts that they've given each and every one of us and guided us through our lives. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, and that sacrifice he made on the cross of Calvary on our behalf. And it's in Christ's name we ask and pray. Amen.